So nice to be here, and yes, just a little bit about myself and to walk you through my story. As my mother has told me when she was living, that I used to cry a lot when I was younger, but she never did really know why I was crying, but she said she could tell it was just something with that cry. And so I was 6 years old, and she was taking my middle brother to the doctor because he has allergies real bad. And then she said the doctor had looked at me and said, I think, I want to test her. And they were talking about me because I guess sickle cell might have just been coming out, or doctors finding out about it. I think it has been out for a while, but the way how I was told it, I wasn't diagnosed until I was 6. So it wasn't really a cure or anything to do about it back then. I know I took antibiotics, penicillin daily, and just kind of learned to live with pain. I have to admit there were some days, when it just felt like I couldn't make it through that crisis, because they call sickle cell, back then when you're in it, they call it a crisis. And so that happened frequently. I was in and out the hospital. I was told that I wouldn't graduate, I wouldn't be able to. And I think back then I did miss a lot of school. So it was kind of hard to catch up with the other kids my age. I missed a lot of school, homework, but I can't say that I was able to keep up with my grades, so I never did fall behind.
Wow.
But when the other kids went out for recess and maybe played basketball or different things, I never knew why, but I could not play with them. I would get tired. I would, and if it was a cold day or raining, I would get sick and have to go in the hospital. And my hospital stays were like up to 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
At a time.
So do you remember at what age you started to notice that your energy level, or that just overall your general ability to kind of keep up, when did you notice that was different?
Well, I will tell you this. I still tried to fit in with everybody like a normal, because nobody wants to be an outsider. But I specifically remember one of my high school years, because I loved to play volleyball. I loved to dance, so I tried out for the volleyball team. And part of the tryouts was we had to run. So I did good playing volleyball, and we actually went in the gym and played. That was fine.
Yeah.
And so when the coach said, okay, let's run, and we had to run 2 or 3 miles, and I was like, okay, something's not right, because the other girls were way gone. That's when I realized, there's certain things that I have to say I cannot do, at least at that time. So that's when I realized it was during my high school year when I was trying out for volleyball.
Well, yes, as far as the study, revealing of my diagnosis, I don't remember the exact date or time when I first diagnosed me. What I remember, my first instance that really impacted me is sort of like my sister with sports, because it was time for Little League football, and I wanted to play because my friends was playing and stuff like that. So we went to the doctor to get the physical, and the doctor told me I couldn't play. And so I can't play because you got sickle cell. But, we got home, I said, I'm playing. I want to play, so I ended up playing. And so Little League and stuff, I was able to play and do good, excelled at football and basketball. But the higher you go, high school and things, the coaches ain't gonna take it easy on you, and then me too. You couldn't run those distances that everybody else could run, because you're gonna get tired, you're gonna get short of breath. Because just playing, like, I can take a quick break doing every in between every play and catch my breath a little bit and go again. But when you have to practice and the coaches are running you and you have to keep up with everybody, do everything everybody else do, it's just impossible to do.
Totally.
And so that's my first remembrance of being diagnosed with sickle cell.
Okay. And what thoughts, if any, kind of ran through either of your minds, Sarah and Jimmy, when you noticed the difference between what you were able to do and what other students or kids were able to do? What kind of things did you think about when you thought about those challenges? Like, what was going on in your mind?
Well, like my sister previously stated, you can't do what your friends doing. they're going to be able to do this, and you're not going to be able to do that. And so it's just feeling like you being left out, being left behind, being distant. And so you have to just change your whole mindset into a different gear, because that can get depressing, and bring on other things.
And that's what I was going to say too. It came a point when I had gotten very depressed, because kids they can be very mean, and nobody really has sympathy. And I feel like sickle cell, a lot of people do not know about it, even African Americans. And they say that sickle cell affects mostly the African American community. And so sometimes it's sad when somebody knows you have sickle cell, or you tell them, and they're like, especially if they're African American, they don't know what sickle cell is. So I had got into a really depressed state, and so for me to come out of that, I had said, okay, I'm strong, I'm tough, and what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna have no kids, I'm not gonna get married, I'm gonna be this independent, strong woman, and I can make it on my own, because nobody really cared, that you had sickle cell, that you couldn't do this. And even in school, sometimes the teachers, I'm missing all this work, and the teachers didn't care to catch me up. It's something that I had to be determined to do. And that's how you can make it if you try. And then I happened to meet my spouse. I know you didn't bring this up.
No,
but
we're gonna
faith.
talk about that, definitely.
Yes, faith. Because I had always said I wouldn't get married, I wouldn't have any kids. And the doctors was telling me, I don't know if you heard this, Jimmy, you won't live to see 40, you won't graduate.
Wow.
Especially you wouldn't be able to have any kids back then, because now sickle cell patients are having kids. But back then when I was pregnant, or I wasn't pregnant yet, but it was told that I couldn't have any kids. So I was just gonna be this tough, independent woman.
So did hearing things like you won't be able to have kids because you have sickle cell, what thoughts did you start to have about your future when you were hearing things like that? And you can kind of include that in your answer just for context, but
yes.
What were some of the thoughts that you had hearing that?
Some of the thoughts I had hearing that, I was just believing what I was hearing. And when I went to the doctors, that made you feel even more depressed, because sickle cell then had a lifespan. But praise God, now I met a woman with sickle cell 2 weeks ago, and she was 70 years old.
Wow.
But back then, there was a lifespan on sickle cell. You weren't expected to live long.
And what number was that was being projected?
They were saying like 30, I think 20, 30, and then I heard 30 as I got older, and then I heard 40.
I think it graduated up to that.
Yeah.
At first it was like 20.
You were hearing 20? So what about you, Jimmy? Similarly, when you kind of at that age were hearing things about sickle cell and what you were supposed to expect, what was going through your mind about your own future?
Well, it really affects you, because you don't set goals. Where you don't set goals if you're not going to be here. And so you don't have no long-term projection. So you're just living for right now. Hey? So. So you ain't focused on your grades. Why do I need to focus on my grades if I'm not going to be able to have a job and be here and to make a living and all this stuff anyway? And so you're just living for the moment, for right now, and trying to have fun, trying to enjoy yourself, because your time is limited. And so that's the mindset you get in, and that's only because of the grace of God you can get out of that mindset and get over that.
Wow. So I'm curious, at what point would you say you went from a mindset of there's not a lot to expect, so I'm just going to live for the now, to, and I know that you've accomplished so much now, and we'll talk about kind of how things are now, but what point did you see a change between your thinking? And you can kind of walk us through that. When did you feel differently about, hey, I'm just living for the now versus...
It probably wasn't until I had my first, child on the way. And then you have to live. You have to.
Oh, Jimmy, because you sure did change.
You have to go somewhere, because I was just ready to party, just living for the day.
For the better.
But when you find out you have a child on the way, okay, well, it's not about me now. It's about someone else. It's about my child, and so you have to refocus. So whatever time I do have, I have to make sure I set some. Leave a legacy and set something for her to live off on and have had for her future, even though I don't know how long my future is going to be. And so it depended. It started focusing from you, and it still wasn't that you might have a bright life, you might have this, but it was went to focus on your family, your kids, then when you get married, your wife.
So the love of the family and the people around you kind of changed your outlook. What about you? When did you? And that's so good. What about you? When did you see a change? And you can kind of.
Yeah, I think my brother had kind of said it all. You have something to live for, something to hope for. And I would say now, as I'm 50,
Next week.
God knows what to do, because my grandson, he's just the love of my life, the apple of my eye. And I look at how my husband and some of his family members spoke into my life, and with my kids, and then now I have a grandkid, and I expect to have, if Lord lets me live to see it, have many more. So that gives me hope.
I love that. That's so powerful. Yes. That is so powerful. So when did, just kind of tell us in the audience of this video, when did you have your first kid? What was kind of your experience with that? Because I know you said you weren't even expecting to have that as a part of your life. So kind of walk me through what that was like.
Well, for me, as I said, I was everything that I did as far as my work in school, I tried to excel at, and I think I did pretty well. And then I kind of unexpectedly, fell in love with the guy. And I was like, oh no, this wasn't supposed to happen, because I even told my husband, I said I was independent, career lady, but things have a way of changing. And so as I met my husband, and I wanted to take better care of myself for my husband and, my family.
Can you think of things that people have said that they maybe were well-intentioned or well-meaning, but that just didn't really help, or things that maybe even hurt that people said or did or thought related to your experience? If you can.
I'm gonna share this. During my, teenage life, and a couple of times while I'm grown recently, and this is just a disclaimer, because this is not every health profession, no, but I have been a doctor or two, sometimes, first of all, having sickle cell, you have this stigma of wanting drugs. So I have been to the emergency room. Sometimes they want to know, are you really in pain? Are you just wanting drugs? When was the last time you had drugs? And to me, that hurts like a knife.
Wow.
It hurts worse than my pain.
Wow.
Because sickle cell is pain. And the only time I go to the emergency room is when I can't control it at home. And so when I go to the emergency room, I feel like that's where I'm crying out for help. Please help me, I'm desperate. And
to be met with those type of questions must be so hurtful.
Yes.
Most people try to shy away from it. They don't know much about it, and they don't. Sometimes some of them ask a couple questions, but most people try to shy away from it. But I've been in that situation too, and I think we get caught in this. What's going on now? That's where everybody's a bunch of drug addicts, and everybody trying to get drugs illegally and stuff. And so we get caught up in that when we go to the hospital and we're in pain and stuff, and they don't know what's going on. They don't know how to treat it. They're not, even the doctors ain't familiar with it and stuff. And so they take the time treating you, and your crisis gets more severe and severe. Every minute, and the longer they wait to get it under control, the longer you're gonna be in it. And then when they give you medicine, they give you a little tiny bit at a time, and we've been on medicine for pain medicine for a while, and so what the average person takes is not going to help us. And so, but we have to go through the process. We have to, slow process of them giving you pain medicine, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and they, act like they don't care, it's not bothering them. And you go to the emergency room. One thing about the emergency room, you have to have, your blood pressure has to be skyrocketed or something like that. Your oxygen sensors has to be real low, but just because of pain, no matter how much pain you're in, they're not going to rush you back there or anything.
So you feel misunderstood?
Yes.
You feel misunderstood?
And also, sickle cell, I think sometimes they're forgotten about disease, but I'm so happy to hear now that they are working on cures. Mm-hmm. I've heard that, they do have some few things that are going on with bone marrow stem cell, gene therapy. So that just makes my heart so happy, because I may not be able to qualify for those things, because I heard when you get a certain age, they rather offer it to the younger persons. But I'm just so happy to hear that they are coming up with some things. And then my doctor has just put me on this new sickle cell medication. My brother has been using hydroxyurea for a while. So there's now, thank God, some new medications and regulations to helping stop the sickle cell pain.
That's awesome. So you must be really happy to hear
Yes.
that there's progress there.
The thing about it though is, because I believe because it was mostly a black disease, they didn't take it serious, and they didn't want to put the money into it. And so, but now, since all this is going on, black rights and stuff like that, they haven't put more money into it and tried to treat it like other diseases and try to find a cure and stuff. So now that's why they're finding more cures and finding different things and ways to treat it. Mm-hmm. When they could have been done that, they would have took the disease seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to say to what my brother said, that sickle cell is not an easy black and white disease, because I found out in my recent years that because of my sickling from all those years, other organs and parts of my body are deteriorating, like my lungs, my heart, my liver, and other things. With sickle cell, your spleen is the first thing to go.
Okay.
So now that I'm experiencing with fluid on my body and different things, they said it's coming from all those years of sickle cell that's damaged other parts of my body. So even though we may look good on the outside, the inside of us is not very well. So it's a complicated disease.
Every time you have a crisis, it's wherever you're hurting, it's damaging something there. And, not almost X-rated or PG, but it's from every joint, small joint in your body. So, so even, it starts hurting your knees, your joints, your elbows, anywhere blood flows through. Mm-hmm. But blood starts sickling and can't flow through good sometimes.
And you feel that.
And you said so you can't get blood through there correctly, and it starts damaging that.
People go through so much, because sickle cell is not the only disease out here in the world. There's other ailments, and people go through things physically, mentally, and spiritually. Mm-hmm. So just as you come upon people, whether you know them or not, show some love. Whether you smile, hug. I know with COVID now, a lot of people may not want to hug, because you never know what anyone's going through. Mm-hmm. And God has been so good to me, but my family and my coworkers may not know that I go to work every day in pain. Mm-hmm. It's tolerable. I work through it, but I would say my pain on a daily basis is about a 3. So sometimes I may not intentionally yell or speak harshly, but sometimes it's not me. It's just I'm in a little bit of pain, but I'm pressing my way through. And so I like to say this. I don't know if Oprah Winfrey is the author of this, but I don't think she is. I think it might have been Maya Angelou. But Oprah said it, and it impacted me to hear her say it. And it's just my story, but I'm going to run on and see what the end's going to be. Mm-hmm. So that's how I feel. So every day I get up, I may not feel well, but I'm going to press my way through.
Did you ever have questions for God? Questions about, why or how is this happening?
Yes.
And just kind of tell the story of that. Yep.
Sometimes I get angry with God, Sometimes I get angry with my parents for having a child with sickle cell, but they didn't know anything about sickle cell and anemia. And so I'm a big advocate, and I told my kids when they were young to please be careful who they mate with, because I don't want any more children. It should not be any more children born in this world with sickle cell. And I wouldn't wish sickle cell on my worst enemy. That's how bad this disease is. That's how painful it is. You wouldn't even want your worst enemy to feel these pains. So, yeah, I wish there were no more. And if everybody would just educate about sickle cell and learn about it, we wouldn't have to have any more children born with sickle cell disease. Because it's hereditary.
It's hereditary. So if two people have that in their genetic line, it's going to be likely that their child may have it. What about you, Jimmy? What thoughts have you, or even questions, have you had for God while going through all of this?
So I done learned through my faith that I have to be like Paul. Sometimes this is my thorn in the bush. So, it's there sometimes to keep me humbled, it's to keep me grounded, because I can get pride if I get a big head sometimes. So it's there to keep you grounded and keep you focused and to let you know that the Lord is my Savior. So, the Lord, everything I have and everything I am is not me, it's the Lord. And so that's where it keeps me. That's where it keeps me focused and grounded.
Have there been any kind of experiences that you've had where you've seen God in a positive light kind of help you through some of these circumstances? Any moments where you had a new idea or had a new revelation where you previously didn't, that God was in this with you?
I know God has been through this whole ordeal with me, and sickle cell causes, like my brother was saying earlier, parts of your body where the blood flows. So in my hip, I'm not getting any blood there, so my bone has decayed, and I was supposed to have hip surgery. Mama was living then. It was about 7 years ago. And so anyway, we had the surgery scheduled and everything, but look at God. I have not had to have my surgery. Some ladies prayed over me, my husband, my daughter. I mean, it's a collaborative thing. And I think an important thing with a sickle cell, and we like to call ourselves warriors because we have overcome so many things. And so just to have that family support, just to have a good support system, it's a good thing.
No, absolutely. Just having a brief chance to meet your family, I can see that you have a super loving and supportive family, and that that just makes such a huge difference. Can you just, both of you, I guess Sarah maybe first, could you talk us through kind of what you pushed through and what you went on to kind of accomplish, and then also what is really important to you, the mark that you're leaving on this world? Like, I know I talked to you a little bit earlier and you mentioned community is really important to you, just being able to serve and be involved, but what are some of those ways that you're still involved, even though it's really admirable because you're pushing through this pain every day?
Oh yes, ma'am. So pushing through, and like I said, I can look back and thank God and have a lot of accomplishments. Like I said, the doctor said I wouldn't be able to graduate, and I graduated high school. Also went to some college. And then I have a family. I'm so thankful for that. I have a supportive husband and 2 loving, blessed children and a grandson. And also just working, because I don't know a lot about a lot of sickle cell warriors, but I know that I have worked through my pain and through my ordeal. And I do want to work as long as I can. So I have pushed myself through that too. And the mark and the legacy that I wanted to leave is just to encourage other sickle cell warriors to just let people know in general that no matter what you're going through, you can do it. Just continue to trust and believe in the Lord.
I love how you talked about always having this intrinsic motivation, this drive to just keep going. I'm curious, what motivates you, if you were to say it in a few words? Like, what is your motivation?
What is my motivation? I love myself, and I want to give myself to my family. I want to serve, and I want to be all that God would have me to be. And I can't do that being a quitter.
I love that. So powerful. Jimmy, any thoughts on that one? What keeps you going? I know you mentioned your daughters earlier and how important family is to you, but
I can't top that one. That was pretty good. But if I can go back first on that, one of the things, like I said, about one of the Lord, you can see the Lord working. It was a big guy on that name. It was a big company coming to our area. And because one of the things I like to push through is working. A lot of people, we can't play sports, we can't work and everything. But like I said, I was doing my thing, trying to make my own money, trying to party.
Yeah.
And so, and so I was working. I always worked, younger days, worked hard jobs that I wasn't supposed to be able to work in warehouses and factories and running meals and lifting heavy things and stuff. And then this one company was coming, it was a warehouse, and everybody was trying to get in there and get that job. And when I had my interview, I was in a sickle cell crisis, I was going in a sickle cell crisis, and I was limping, I couldn't hardly walk. But I pressed through, I went on in there and I tried to fake it. I tried to walk straight and everything like I wasn't limping. But God was in that, and God was able to let me get through that. And I got hired in the best, I got first shift, and I got the best, I got in the actual warehouse department where I could drive machines those times. I didn't have to do the heavy lifting. I didn't have to do me and my feet. I'll do it. So God worked that thing out. But then what was the other question?
And then the other question, what's your main source of motivation, would you say?
Oh, well, it's like I said, it started off with my daughter. I think that pushed me and motivated me when I had a child on the way. But then it came, my lovely wife. I have a wife and I have 2 daughters now. And then, just God, come to know my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And so I know I have to push through and keep on going and, like I say, give myself to the ministry. I'm a preacher now, assistant pastor. And if people can know I keep going on through this and with a smile and serve the Lord, then they can do it too, no matter what they're going through. And so I try to be dependable on everything I do for the Lord. If I try to be there every Sunday, so no matter what you're going through, you ain't got no excuses not to be there if I can be there. So serving the Lord, if I can make it to Bible study, well, you can make it to Bible study,
You're a light to others, certainly. A great example in showing people that it's okay to push through even through things.
And so I want to come off not just, with the sad face too, come with smile on your face.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say this about my brother. He might not want me to say it, but he's just coming out of an episode, and he still came.
Wow.
10-hour drive.
Wow.
To come see his family. This is how dedicated.
That says a lot.
And not just him, but his family, because his daughter drove him, and his wife came along as well.
Wow. So. That says a lot. A lot about dedication, a lot about your values and what's important to you to show up even if you're pushing through pain. But when you're talking about the crises that you have, what makes them come on, or do they just come on spontaneous for somebody that knows nothing about sickle cell crises?
So you just have to learn, because each sickle cell person may be different of what sets them off. So you have to learn your body. But I learned for me what sets me off, so I try to, if I can, avoid that. But I would say for every sickle cell person, I know stress does, and the change of the weather. Anything you want to add to that, Jimmy?
Stress, and that's the main thing for me, the cold weather. And in Texas, it can be hot during the day and cold at night. So if you go out in the day with shorts on and it's hot, then all of a sudden the sun go down and catch you out, and you get cold, and that can start a crisis. Starts to a crisis, and then just dehydration. If you don't drink enough water, that gets you. And see, so that's the problem I'm having now, because they tell me with my kidney, sickle cell messed up my kidneys. So now with my kidneys, I can't drink that much, but sickle cell tells me I gotta drink a lot. So I gotta try to balance it.
What does it feel like when you're in the middle of a crisis?
All I can feel is the pain. It's just
everywhere.
Pain. Yeah. Well, no, it just depends on where you're having the crisis at that time. Where where your blood sickles at and it's having a hard time flowing through. And so that's what I was saying. A lot of times when I started my knees or my shoulders, the worst crisis I ever had, they had me in ICU is because it was in my chest, around my heart and lungs. And, so that's serious because like I said, every time you have a sickle cell crisis, it's doing damage. And so they had to hurry up and do a blood transfusion, straight, get all the blood out of me and put some more in me. And then that was on a Wednesday, and my testimony, my church family prayed for me. And again, I'm being faithful. I was in the church, I was praising the Lord on Sunday morning. So that Sunday morning.
You really have an attitude of gratitude, pushing through everything you're experiencing. That's admirable. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like just being able to have such a long and rich life as you've had in itself is a testimony. Really a miracle. Did you ever have a point where either of you, Sarah or Jimmy, thought, wow, I didn't think that I would, be living as rich as I am now, or just a moment of gratitude, or kind of reflecting on where you had come?
I have it all the time. Matter of fact, I wake up daily in a moment of gratitude because I know each day that I wake up is a blessing. And my mama used to say, I guess that same saying, anytime you wake up and you're above the ground, it's a blessed day.
It's a blessed day.
It's a blessed day.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Did you ever have any time that felt like a scare, like a moment or a crisis that you thought that you wouldn't kind of get past, and then how did you get past that moment? What support did you have?
Well, like I said, while ago, that time I was having it in my chest, around my lungs, and even my own one of mine. I thought I had at that time a wonderful doctor. He's retired now. But he said he didn't know what to do at that time. So that scares you when your doctor tells you that you don't know what to do when they rush you into ICU. And so like I said, that was on Wednesday night, and he heard come in late. I never seen no doctor work that late hours yet. Came in the hospital that morning at about 6 o'clock. He came back that night about 7 o'clock. And I was on the phone with my church family, the pastor, and telling them to pray for me. He says, make sure they pray for your doctor too. I said, thank the Lord. And so through that, the next day he figured out something. I guess the Lord gave him a revelation. I had a certain type of blood transfusion, and I was feeling better. But like I said, Saturday and Sunday I was in the church house. So.
Yes, and I have those all the time and frequently, but the last one I had was like this time last year, and it even made me have a pulmonary embolism, which they said I could have died. But my pains were so bad and I couldn't breathe with it, because a lot of times when you have sickle cell, for some reason, you can't breathe. And so I remember I couldn't breathe or do any of that. I couldn't even take a step. And I text my family, because we have a group text, and I just said, can't breathe, pray. And my husband wasn't home. I was home by myself, and next thing I know, about 30 minutes later, my husband came home because they got my text, and my kids were praying for me, and he took me to the hospital. And I was in ICU for a little while, but yeah, I didn't think I was going to make it back home.
I've experienced this. It gets worse. I don't know if that's just normal, but it seems like it's getting worse and worse the older you get. So.
Yeah, I have been told that, after you get over 50, you won't be expected to live as long because of all the damage done to your organs. So it does get worse and worse. Every time you go in the hospital, every time you have a crisis, it just gets worse and worse. Yeah.
And it sounds like your families have been a huge support system through all of this. And I know you said that, and you're definitely grateful for your families. And I'm sure that you tell them all the time, but if there was something that you could say now that you haven't said before to your family, just about the rock, like the support that they've been for you, the rock that they've been for you. If there's, I don't know, if you can think of anything that you've never said to them, what would you say to the people that have been your support?
Well, I just want to definitely thank my family. I know my sisters and kids and family are always praying for me. But when they find out I'm sick, I don't want to tell them all that often because I don't want them worrying. But also my, immediate family, my daughters and my wife. I know, I guess earlier this year when I went into a crisis, because I said this year I've had several. Usually only have 1 or 2 a year, but this year I've had 4 or 5 crises where I've been in the hospital. And one of them got so bad I was out of it. And then finally they kept just feeding me with pain medicine, morphine or something. And I was out of it, didn't know where I was going. And they just kept it, think they was going to overdose me. But my wife hadn't been there and told them something was strange because my face was breaking out. And I was swelling and other things was going on. She was telling them that wasn't normal, they need to do something. And so she made them go get another doctor, this other doctor that we know, and they went and got him. And he changed some of my medicines and I'm out of my crisis just like that. So,
Wow.
yeah, so if it wasn't for her there, because you need support when you're there, when you're in the hospital. If you don't have nobody to care about you when you're in the hospital, you don't tell them what them doctors do. Matter of fact, sometimes they get in there, sometimes you have good doctors and good nurses, or sometimes you don't even have some, don't even care nothing about you, and you won't even see them that throughout the night, till early in the morning when they come wearing it, wanting blood and all that kind of stuff.
But I forgot to say thank you to my church family, because I have a church family that prays, checks on me, love me.
That's awesome.
And I tell you, I just thank God for that. And I thank God for my lovely husband, my 2 kids, and the Almighty God. And something that I haven't told y'all that I want to say, I know I love y'all, but you have been my doctor, you have been my everything, my all in all, and I just love you for it.
So sweet. Seeing where you are now and the long, just loved life that you've lived, if you could say something to your younger self, right when you found out, early on, when you were just, getting diagnosed and when you were, hit with feeling different from everyone else and just in all the emotion of that, if you could say something to your younger self at this age, if anything, what would you say?
Do the little things, take care of your body, eat right. I drunk a lot during the days, but when I got a kid, I stopped. But I drunk a lot. That's one of the things that you say you shouldn't do. Never did smoke though, so thank the Lord. But I never did eat right, so that's sort of hurting me now with all these things. So do the little things, eat right, try to stay, a lot of fluids, so try to stay hydrated. But don't act like your life is over. Go ahead and have a purpose and press through and keep on going, because never know what the Lord has planned for you.
Yeah.
So good.
Yes. And I would tell my younger self, because what I did was isolated myself because I felt like nobody wanted to be around me anyway. And there were times when people heard you had sickle cell and they stayed away from you because they thought they could catch it. And so it's funny now, but so yeah, I would tell my younger self, it's going to be all right, and I don't have to isolate myself. I don't have to feel like I'm different, and just communicate and just love and have somebody to talk to. That's so important. I know sometimes when I have crisis now, and I think that my husband doesn't understand certain things, because if you don't have sickle cell, you really don't know what the next person's going through. So I'll call my brother, and I have called him at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and he'd be up. I said, Jimmy, you up? What you doing up? He said, well, I never sleep good anyway. And I'll tell him what's going on with me, and he'll remind me, okay, you done this, this, and that. You don't need to do this, this, and that, and this is from this, this, and that. And I just love that. Not that you have sickle cell to it, that you can relate, because that is so important. That just means so much. I can call him any time of the night.
My thing is good. My sister had, not that she has again, but both of us together, that she can help me take stuff seriously, because a lot of times I just, I don't take it seriously. I need to be doing, that I can help myself and prevent certain things. But I just go on, and not take it seriously. But she reminds me, you need to be doing this. You need to stay on them doctors. You need to do this and do that. So, that helps me. And she gives me a lot of wisdom that she doesn't learn. She makes sure she shares with me. So.
Yes, and I'll just say this to everybody, that it's important to be your own best advocate. And I've heard that from Serena Williams. I know she had something going on. Is it okay to say that on the tape? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had something going on when she had her baby. And I heard her specifically say, sometimes you have to be your best advocate. You have to advocate for your health. So if you feel like something's not right or something's going on, like she told me, like you did when Jimmy was in the hospital, speak up and say something. Yes.
Important to be your own best advocate. That's awesome advice. Who's older, by the way?
Oh, really? Thank you.
It's funny. Okay, that answers my question.
On that note, matter of fact, I will be celebrating 56 years December, if the Lord lets me live to see it, December 29th.
Awesome.
Yes, and on another hand, celebrating my husband. We've been married 32 years. And I had 2 kids graduate from college, Calvin, Oakwood University, and Yannicka, Vanderbilt University, yes.
And you have children pursuing their masters, and your daughter as well.
Yes.
Yes, I already celebrate my birthday. I would always say I am. No, no, on a real note, I'm 50 this year, 50 years old this year. Big milestone. My wife threw me a big 50 year birthday party. My sister came to see me and her family. But yeah, I have a wonderful wife. I've been married 3 days from now will be 21 years. I have 2 lovely daughters. One has went through college, and now she's in law school, college down in Miami, Florida. So hopefully she'll become a lawyer, and they'll help me out. And we're good. And then I have a basketball star back there. That's in college and got a full court bash. She's doing what I can't do now. Basketball couldn't do now. So. But I thank the Lord for my family, and if it wasn't for, sometimes you need something like that to give you a reason to push through, because if it was just for yourself, you would have just gave up and quit. And so God always knows what you need to, to push you through, to put you over, to open the door. He says, no matter what you're going through, he says, people always use it as far as temptation, but he's really talking about through your suffering and stuff. He always gives you a way out. And so, that was my way out, to tell this funny story. Me and my wife, we got married. Sometimes we don't, he says the man who finds a wife finds a good thing, and so, Lord, I probably would have went the other way, a different way, but the Lord saw fit for us to get married. So, and he knew that was the best woman for me. So,
amen.
Even though I didn't know it, so even though I didn't know it.
That's awesome. I love how you just kind of ended there on sharing what your reason is, and if you want to share something similar, just to just kind of close us out. What is your reason to keep going in all of this, and kind of what would you say to God after all of this?
Just dittoing on what Jimmy said. My husband, I tell you, he's been my rock. He matter of fact, he didn't know anything about sickle cell. And if I must say this, he didn't even know I had sickle cell when we got married, because I didn't tell him. Because that's how ashamed I was, how embarrassed I was. So when he found out I had it, he learned everything he could about sickle cell. And he's one of the reasons too why I think I'm here doing well. And he makes sure I stays on my doctor visit. I eat right, I get my rest, I dress right. So sweetie, thank you. And we celebrated, 32 years on September? Yes, and then, and I'm again, I say this because I had sworn that I wouldn't have any kids or get married, so I'm just so grateful and thankful for Calvin and Yannicka. And I just look at my son now, and he has organized this and put it together, and thank you for you, Dallas Meyer, and friend back there. Without y'all this wouldn't be possible, so thank you. God gave you the idea and the knowledge, and just to run with it, so may God continue to bless each and every one.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, it was wonderful hearing about your story and spending this time with you. Thank you.
Thank you.